All right, you know what day it is? It is the best day of the week, oddly, Mock Draft Monday, except this week, the best day of the week is it going to be Thursday? Depends on how first round goes, or maybe Tuesday, or I'm sorry, Friday or Saturday, depending on who they pick. If Nick has his way and they pick Ty Chandler on, day 3, then maybe Saturday's the best day of the week. If everyone gets their way and Matt Arise is picked on day 3, probably best day of the week. So, but it is Mock Draft Monday. It is the last Mock Draft Monday of 2022. And we are going to try to go out with a bang, although I don't know we're going to do what we do, mock drafts, but this is the last one before the actual draft on Thursday. It's been a lot of fun doing this for the last couple months. Corey, I definitely appreciate you being here. Appreciate everyone who's been a part of this, made it so much fun. And we're going to do what we do, which is Mock Draft Monday. So, Corey, how are you, man?
I am very sad. It is the last time that we get to draft Matt Ariza.
Yes,
I am very sad.
Yes. JP saying Rice will go to the Rams. Peo Time's been hoping for that. He's trying to speak that into existence, right? Moore's Legacy is Captain once said, I'm back, right? Matt Rice, I play middle linebacker. Oh man, I don't know. And we got I Am Bear here. What's up, yo? And first comment was Eduardo Brunetto. Hello, guys. How are you doing? Let's go to the last Mock Draft Monday, the last time to draft Matt Ariza, 100%. So we're going to get this thing going. This is that last week, right? Before the draft when things start settling in and, all the smoke screens are out there. And now with all these mock drafts, we're going to see what happens come Thursday. So we're going to do what we do our player profiles, do our mock drafts. In the end, I've got a couple of questions I'll post to the chat to kind of help us kind of wrap up, draft preview season. Real quick, I want to also say hi to Simon who's here. Thanks for being here. So a lot of regular folks already in the chat, so love seeing that. So let's start with our player profiles. And the player profile, we'll let you get started, is Kyler Gordon. So tell us about Kyler Gordon, the cornerback.
As we all know, Arizona loves to draft from Washington. 2 of our best players are from Washington, at least on defense. And it's honestly no surprise that both Washington corners, highly touted Washington corners, are linked to the Cardinals. It's honestly not a surprise. Kyler Gordon has great length. Great on special teams. I believe he won some special teams award. I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like all-state special teams player of the year, whatever, something. Great ball skills. He got challenged a lot because no one throws at Trent McDuffie, and I don't think Trent McDuffie is going to be there at 23.
Right.
But if Kyler Gordon falls to us in day 2, I highly doubt the Cardinals even think about passing up on him.
Yeah. Kyler Gordon tested really well. He's got all the physical traits. In fact, when you look at his kind of measurables and, how he tested, he actually tested very similar to Marco Wilson, who was an exceptional athlete. So he's got like the physical tools of Marco Wilson or somewhere in that range, except when you look at how he played, like he graded better in college than Wilson did. Right, Marco Wilson played reasonably well as a freshman, but never really improved on that. And Kyler Gordon is like Marco Wilson's physical traits with better play at the college level, or at least better grades. Now, you do have to take into account, that Marco Wilson was playing the SEC, so he was playing against probably some better competition. But, Washington is no slouch, and they play against some decent teams. So I feel like, Kyler Gordon is maybe a little bit more polished Marco Wilson, which would be kind of nice, right? So
Washington puts out DBs. We have 2 of them on our roster.
Yeah, we like him from there, right? Real quick, let me say hey to some of the other folks who jumped in. Drew McWhorter, don't tempt Kyle with Riza inside linebacker. He'll take him at 23, right? Soccer Shoes, thank you for being here. What's up, guys? Mock Draft Monday. Really glad to be here. JP saying Kyler Gordon has first round grades from teams according to Tony Pauling. Yeah, and he's a guy who could sneak into the back end of the first round. It is important to remember that a first round grade doesn't always mean they'll go in the first round. Sometimes players with first round grades, if that team that has a first round grade on him is picking in the top half of the first round, they're not necessarily going to pick him there. They might think he's worth a late first rounder, but if they don't have a late first rounder, they don't necessarily take him. But I don't doubt that there are players that have a first round grade on him, but he still might. I don't know if he'll go up there. Nick, thank you for reminding everyone to hit the like button. Please do that. That definitely helps with, helping people find my channel and the videos and the algorithm. Kyler Gordon, if they somehow manage to get him on day 2, that would be a really nice pick. So I like the player and the fit. I wouldn't want them to reach for him in round 1, but if they could get him in round 2, that would be really nice, right? So the player I'm profiling is Alex Wright. He is a developmental edge rusher out of University of Alabama, Birmingham. He's a junior. He's 6'5", 271. And I see him as either an early day 3 player or maybe someone takes him like late day 2, like in the 3rd round. But to me, he's a guy who's going somewhere between rounds 3 and 5. He's raw, but he has the physical tools. He's got the frame you want for an NFL edge rusher. He's got some room to grow into it in terms of bulking up with muscle, which he will need to add a little bit. But he's got the size. He's got the tools. He played well against lower levels of competition. He graded, actually his PFF grades overall was 90.4. His pass rush grade was 91.1 with a run defense grade of 78.8 in 2021. So he graded well. But he didn't have a ton of sacks. He had 5 sacks, 3 hits, but he had 43 hurries, which is a nice number. So he's a guy who, if you're looking to take an edge rusher who you will develop, he's not ready really to be an NFL level starter right away. I mean, you could plug him in and see what he does, but he needs some development. But if you're going to take a guy and develop him for a year or two, he has those tools that he could be really good. To me, this is the kind of player the Baltimore Ravens take every other year, give him a year or 2 to develop. And then, after in his 3rd year, he's, potentially, sniffing at a Pro Bowl. Right. So, if the Cardinals don't go edge rusher earlier, and they try to get someone to develop, this could be a guy that you would look at. So what are your thoughts on Alex Wright?
Everything you hit is spot on. If you didn't mention it, I was going to. I would be shocked if Baltimore doesn't snap him up before us, because think Baltimore Ravens developmental edge rusher and you get Alex Wright. It's literally the blueprint that the Baltimore Ravens have laid out for the league of getting pass rushers on late day 2, early day 3, and just turning them into Pro Bowlers and reaping the rewards.
You just keep a pipeline of it. Yeah.
Not having to pay them big money.
Yeah, for sure. Let me quickly say hi to some of the other folks in the chat. So Worldful Z, how far can Kyler Gordon throw a shoe?
You can't make them cry on stream, man. That was tough. That was a tough moment. Yeah, that was a tough moment.
We got Facundo Morrissey. Thanks for being here. Murphy Blewett, Jalen Gordon, all from Washington. Maybe first time team have all DBs from the same college. That'd be something. Yeah.
Nick L, yes, he did.
Yes.
JT went to Washington State.
Right. We got Robert Moore in the chat. What is up, Robert? Made it. Appreciate you. And Robert's got some notes on his mock draft. So when we get to yours is gonna be the last one as you requested. So
oh boy.
He's got some notes for us. So we'll see. I think we got a question back to your guy, Kyler Gordon. Would you trade up for Gordon if he falls to round 2, or would you trade up for him in round 2 if they fall out of the first round? So would you be willing to move around the board a little to try to get him? Whether think about what they did with Budda Baker, right? They traded up.
That's what I'm kind of thinking.
Him. So would you be willing to do that for Kyler Gordon? You'd have to give up our 50, number 55, and maybe let's say a pick next year, maybe a 4th rounder next year, something like that. Just kind of spitballing, which will have some compensatory picks next year. So, the Cardinals moving up in those middle rounds is a possibility. You know, I could see, you know, Steve Keim saying, I'm going to trade up, you know, to early second round and give up like a 4th round pick next year because we're going to have a 3rd, 5th, and 6th compensatory pick, right? So would you do that for him?
I would say see how the board's falling. If the board's falling where corners are flying off the board left and right, and Kyler Gordon's one of the only ones available, then yeah, go up and get him. Because as we all know, our cornerback room's not the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
Given the fact probably that we address, hopefully, defensive line in the first round in some form or fashion. Good God, hopefully in the first round, trade up for Kyler Gordon because then that makes our defense a whole lot better.
Yeah, I think like for me, I want to be in the business of getting more picks this year in the middle rounds, but we have too many at round 6 or 7.
Oh yeah.
So I don't necessarily want to like give up our 3rd round pick to move up in the 2nd round with our 2nd round pick or something like that. But let's say if they took pick number 55 and then added a 4th or 5th round next year to move up to get him in, you know, in the 40s somewhere, I could live with that, you know, because I think Kyler Gordon's a really good player. So if they get someone like Zion Johnson in the 1st round or a receiver like Traylon Burks or someone like that in the 1st round, and then they come around and they trade up, you know, to move up a little bit in the 2nd round to get someone like Kyler Gordon, if they're giving up a middle round pick next year to do that, I don't hate that. So yeah, I could see that. Real quick, let me say hey to CB. Karlaftis or Zion Johnson will do for me. Okay. We got Chris Young. Appreciate you being here. Howdy, everyone. Otis Shriftwood. Yo, I'm here. Can start now. That's right. Right. Let's see. And then we'll let's see. Let's get a question here. Drew McWhorter. What are your thoughts on Kobe Bryant, the cornerback out of Cincinnati, you know, who played opposite of Sauce Gardner? What are your thoughts on him? And where do you think he'll go?
He's not as good as Sauce Gardner. He got tested a lot and won the Jim Thorpe Award, which goes to show how little teams threw at Sauce Gardner because they were that scared of him.
Right.
But Kobe Bryant is, I don't want to say kind of like the exact opposite of Sauce Gardner, because that paints a bad picture about him.
Mm-hmm.
But Kobe Bryant like takes some chances. He jumps routes. He tries to jump routes.
It's a little more aggressive.
A little more aggressive than Sauce. Sauce Gardner is a little more technically sound than Kobe Bryant. But Kobe Bryant, when he guesses right, he makes plays.
Yeah. Real quick. Yeah. Hey, everyone, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button. That really does help with the algorithm and finding the channel and people getting to know we're there. I got 29 people in here on my screen. So
I see 30 with 14
which
likes,
love having y'all here. So that's
29.
Yeah. So please do us a favor. Let's ask this one other question before we get into some of the mock drafts. Are there any other players? Okay, we're at 14 likes there, so we're making some strides. So awesome. Are there any other players you trade up for in round 2 if they fall out of the 1st round?
Well, we did just talk about Kyler Gordon,
mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to exclude him from those because we did just talk about him. I'm going to steal the answer from you because I know you're going to say it, and I'm going to say it too. Travis Jones. If we don't address defensive line, I'm trading up for Travis Jones because.
I love me some Travis Jones. I would do that. I'll tell you what, though. A couple other players that I would. If one of those receivers that we've talked about it potentially taking at 23, Jahan Dotson, Traylon Burks, Pickens, yeah. If one of those guys is still there at pick 30 something.
Like if he fell past the lines and a couple of those receiver needed teams.
I'd think long and hard about moving up for one of those guys. So for sure.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
So why don't we get into what we're here for, though, which is the mock drafts. And as always, we'll start off with your mock draft. We've got Moore's Legacy saying Jalen Petrie. Listen, the Cardinals met with him, so they like him. He's an interesting slot, safety hybrid kind of guy. So maybe, you know. For me, I'd probably rather wait and see if he slides. Was there any news say not?
I think he's responding to Drew. I was gonna ask before you turned it to me. I was gonna ask. There's a comment by Drew.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see this Pickens news because I've been off of social media all day because I hardly go on social media. Being a 21-year-old person, I'm surprisingly not on social media enough.
Yeah,
I post a lot of memes to my Instagram. That's pretty much what
I'll tell you what, we've got your mock draft up here, so I'm going to take a quick look.
Speaking of which,
and let you talk about that. While you're talking about that, I'm gonna look. Tested really poorly. Tons of character questions. Tons of GMs are out. Interesting. Okay. So let's talk about your mock draft, and then let's see. Go and tell us what you did, and then I'm gonna
interview poorly. Okay, that I can understand because tested poorly, already tested. So interview poorly, I can get that. All right, but anyway, jumping over to my mock draft. When I made this mock draft, I want to say last week, sometime, because I was going to be here last week, but I had some family issues and I couldn't show up. But Kansas City is the #1 trade down partner that I've been hearing. I would personally like to trade down with Cincinnati for if they come up for Tyler Linderbaum, we can get maybe a little bit more. But I felt going realistic with. I am so sorry, Robert Moore. He went before me. When I took Christopher Allen thinking Matt Araiza was going to fall to me, he went the very next pick, and I was very upset. I was very upset with myself. But I traded away Andy Isabella because I just did not want him on my team. That's basically I added Andy Isabella in to get rid of an extra fourth round pick. And basically I just tried to hit all the needs that I could. I went best player available with pick 29 that I traded down for, which was, in my eyes, George Pickens. At 55, Roger McCreary fell to me. In the third, I was like, okay, let me get help on the trenches because I need to do that. I haven't done that yet. So I got Donovan West at backup center, Dominic Robertson for a developmental edge rusher. In the fourth, I grabbed a defensive lineman, a true defensive lineman, because that's still our biggest need. Second, fourth round pick, running back. Pierre Strong has been heavily linked to the Cardinals. I would love that fit. And then here on day 3, it's just a bunch of developmental guys. Sadly, no Matt Araiza because he went literally the pick after Christopher Allen, and I was so sad.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I love the McCreary pick. I like Pierre Strong. I really like that pick. For me, I'm not going Pickens that early. And someone mentioned that they're about Pickens tested poor or tested really poorly. Tons of character questions. Lots of
interviewed
GMs are out. Interviewed poorly. Yeah, he said corrected himself. Yeah. I will say
I didn't know that until because that came out today, and this was a couple of days ago. But
so that
I still have Pickens really high.
So yeah, and
I have to do a little more research on that because I didn't know.
So that those are going to be some concerns, and that's probably why he's going to part of the reason he's going to go in the second round. Though I'm always a little cautious about stuff like that because sometimes a team that wants to take him tries to get those rumors out there, to kind of kill his stock a little bit, hoping he'll slide. If there's multiple people saying that, then maybe it's not so much. So, that's something to consider, right? Personally with Pickens, I love the talent. Brett Coleman compared him to AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins in terms of the type of player he is. And clearly those are our receivers. So the Cardinals like that type of receiver, on the outside. So he seems like a great fit, for that player wise. So I like the player. For me, I'm probably taking him. I'm waiting for him a little bit later or letting, or going with someone else if he's gone. Pierre Strong, I really like, get a developmental edge rusher there. So there's some players I definitely like here. What are your Josh Johnson? I know I've read up a little bit about him from Tulsa. What are your thoughts about him, in terms of why you picked him?
Quite frankly, to be very frank here, he was one of the only receivers that I felt comfortable drafting, period. Okay. Still available, and I got rid of Andy Isabella, so I was like, I don't want to walk away with just one receiver because then we have like 4 on our roster with Wesley, Dortch, Pickens, 5 on the roster. So I wanted to get another one. I see something from my boy Aaron Van Buren.
Oh, okay. Huge thanks to Aaron Van Buren. Kenneth Walker in 2 or 3 also joined the Discord. Thank you for reminding everyone. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate that. And obviously, as always, we have to say thank you. So Aaron Van Meer,
Yes.
thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the reminder. There's a link to the Discord below. If you aren't part of our Discord, join in. There's over 100 folks in there. We have conversations about the Cardinals stuff throughout the week. It's a great community. So thank you for the reminder, Aaron, and thank you for the super chat. I mean, listen, Kenneth Walker, arguably the best running back on the board. I don't like taking running backs early. We've talked about this at length, but I will say, you get a running back like him early, on day 2, you've got a difference maker. That's the upside there, right? Running backs can come in and make an impact early, right? So I do like that. That from that perspective, I just, from a roster building perspective, that's not the direction I like to go. Real quick, Josh Jones. So he's 5'11", 183. So he would profile, as that slot, but he is good at getting open. It sounds like. So there was a question earlier, real quick. Someone asked, who do I think Travis Jones's player comp is? That's a tough one because he's so big and strong. The NFL.com compared him to Jonathan Hankins.
I can see that.
Yeah, so that's an interesting comparison. The website that does relative athletic score, if you're not familiar with them, that's a really great website. They compare him to Muhammad Wilkerson, a guy who's had a nice career as a defensive lineman. So I think, those kinds of guys, big, strong defensive linemen who are really good against the run, but also can maybe give you a little bit of something rushing the passer sometimes. So, I think those are probably some good comparisons for him. Real quick, want to say hey to Rafael Castillo. What's up, though? Appreciate you being here. So yeah, seems like a fair trade to me. But I like some of the players here. I like that you hit key positions. Personally, I like Pickens as a player. I just don't know if I'm taking him at that spot, but I like the player, right? It's a good fit. So, and then you got him for the outside and Josh Jones for the slot. So I think it's nice what you did there. Any final thoughts that you want to mention on this before we move on from there?
I have sinned. The last mock draft, and I didn't draft Matt Araiza.
So you were
our roles reversed. I think, did you draft Matt Araiza this year? This
well, interestingly enough, I did. It was the last mock draft, and I couldn't go without Matt Araiza. I also couldn't go without my guy Travis Jones. He's, he has been one of my favorite players. He was in my mock drafts early. He hasn't been in them lately because he just always ended up being early second round. Yeah, and we didn't draft Ty Chandler either, so Nick is not happy about that, right? I'm Bear. Okay, had to watch the end of the Raptors game. We're still live. Okay, congratulations. So I made a couple trades here, and I got in some ways, a little aggressive, but not in the moving up way. I traded out of the first round, which, for Thursday night, that would, from a draft strategy perspective, I love getting a bunch of day 2 picks. It would suck to watch Thursday night and not pick anyone. So I totally get that. But what I did is, you see, I traded a first and then a 7th round pick to get a pick in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds. So completely got out of the first round, but I got myself 2 day 2 picks in the early day 3 pick. And then you see later, I traded one of those. I traded a 3rd round pick and a 6th to get a 3rd and a 4th. So I really invested heavily in the middle rounds here in this mock draft. So I made 2 trades here, and I went with Travis Jones early, on pick 37 when I traded back. McCreary, who you had, I also got. And then I went after Zach Tom, who, I'm going to thank our guy Payo Time for pointing him out to me. And he's a guy, he's 6'4", 304, has elite movement traits. Some people think he's going to move inside the guard because of how well he moves. But I could see him, he could still stay at tackle, but he also played center in 2019. So he's a guy who has some really nice physical traits. So I would probably see him as a guard. And then I went with Cam Jurgens, a guy who has really great physical traits, maybe some of the best physical traits as a center. He just needs some refinement. So maybe he sits a year, or 2 behind Hudson, probably 1 year, and then could eventually be a future starter. I went with wide receiver. Didn't get one earlier, but Kevin Austin Jr. I think is a guy who's a really good fit for what they like on the outside. If you have to get someone a little bit later, the deal with him, he's 6'2", 200, super athletic. The production didn't quite match the traits. But the thing he excelled at is the thing I'm always looking for with those big receivers for the Cardinals is how he does with contested catches and at the point of the catch. And that is his strength. He is really good with contested catches deep down the field. So I went with a guy who here that, the receivers I liked better were gone, but a guy who fits what they want to do outside and maybe could develop into a future starter there. Then I went with Rachaad White, running back out of Arizona State, who I really like. He's a really good pass catcher, really good with the ball in the hand, would be a great Chase Edmonds replacement. Of course, Matt Araiza. Cole Turner, who I've talked about before, who is, reminds me a lot of Dan Arnold. And then Balin Spector, a late linebacker with decent traits, could be a special teams contributor and a deep guy, depth. And you're right, Drew, no edge, right? And the tough part is edge is an important need, but the guys I liked were gone at points, and there were other guys I liked better. And Peo time, I took Zach Tom. I even mentioned to him, appreciate you being here, but we took Zach Tom, and we took Matt Araiza. You can't have any of them. But there are some edge rushers still, free agent edge rushers. Some vets that you can sign to a 1-year contract. I want to get an edge rusher in the draft. I think they should, and they probably will. But in this mock draft, the way the board fell, there were just some players I really liked who were still there in those middle rounds that I didn't want to pass up. So I didn't go edge rusher. Jordan P. likes Travis Jones. Yeah, I think he is such a great fit for what they need, right? So what are your thoughts? What stands out to you from this mock draft?
I was going to argue that you didn't take an edge rusher, but you kind of just defended yourself already. So now I'm just kind of left here. Well, what do I do? That's really the only thing I would have done is probably taken an edge rusher. But I don't know how the board fell.
Yeah.
But if it fell in a poor way for edge rushers, which this edge rush class is very loaded, so they could either fall or they could either fly.
Yeah.
If the edge rushers fly off the boards and you aren't confident in any of the edge rushers available when you're picking and you can't find a trade down partner, I wouldn't mind this. I would not mind this. I like Zach Tom as an athletic tackle. Quick note that his year at center, he didn't allow any sacks, but he allowed 11 hurries, which kind of worries me. But that was 2 years ago. A little more development could probably iron that out. Played 1,000 snaps. Rachaad White. Oh, I would love Rachaad White to be an Arizona Cardinal. Would love it.
Yeah.
Would love it.
Yeah. It was tough. I totally, I've taken an edge rusher in pretty much every mock draft I've done, but it was okay, Cam Jurgens, a guy who has the traits to potentially be one of the best centers in the league if you develop him. He's got the physical traits. Get a guy to be, a future starter who could be a solid starter, when Hudson moves on and retires in a couple of years, perhaps. It was him or one of those developmental edge rushers who won't play. And I don't know. I just liked the idea. Those were the kinds of decisions I had that kept me from taking one of those edge rushers. Roger McCreary, him being there at 55 was just hard to pass up on. Love Zach Tom. So, it was tough not taking edge rusher, but there were just too many players that, I had to go with. So
I could see why you didn't. Cause say you took an edge rusher in the trade down where you took Cam Jurgens. Now we don't have a backup center.
Right. Yeah.
And if you take a backup center, you take the guy out of BYU, James Empey.
Right.
What 7th round pick are you sacrificing for James Empey? Because we need Cole Turner for a backup tight end. Matt Araiza is God, so we have to have him. And Steve Keim's going to draft a linebacker. We just don't know when.
If I were to do one thing differently, maybe I would have, taken an edge rusher at pick 89 and then taken Wattenberg, the center out of Washington, later. But Jurgens has really great upside. He's like the most physically, he's maybe the most physically gifted center. He just, isn't as developed as Lindstrom as a player. But yeah.
If I remember correctly, didn't he have a really good game against their arch rivals in Ohio State? I'm going to look right now, but
yeah, go ahead and check that. Real quick,
I think that was one of his better games.
May have been. I didn't really look that closely. CB saying I was all in on the big cornerback Wooden out of UTSA, but backtracked or opted to look elsewhere due to tackling issues and finding trouble locating the ball while defending. Yeah, he's a guy who has a lot of great traits, but if you're drafting him, it's not to start him soon, And I think like I've said in the past, we've already got a couple of those developmental guys in Wilson and Gladney. If I'm taking a cornerback, I want someone who's more refined and closer to being ready to start. And McCreary's got a ton of playing experience, right? The only knock on him is maybe his length and maybe he's more of a slot corner, right?
And he admitted himself he doesn't know how to play zone coverage, but that could be taught. That could be taught.
Yeah. And Christian saying, I feel TCR at a position that fell for me like Edge did for you here. Yeah. So sometimes, sometimes you just got to go with the board and know that, you can't fill every need in the draft every year. Sometimes you have to go free agents afterwards, right? So let's move on to the first mock draft that we have that isn't one of ours of the night, and that is Moore's Legacy, who's been in the chat. So Moore's Legacy, we've got yours. And when we bring up your mock draft, if you've got anything you want to tell us about, your thinking in your mock draft, get it in the chat. I will definitely put it on the screen, your comments. So he went with, let's see, he did a trade. He did a couple trades. I'm going to say, I don't think these trades would happen in real life, but he did them. He traded our first round pick and a future round 2 for Terry McLaurin and a 7th round pick. Terry McLaurin, great player, right? I just don't know they're going to give him up, right?
I don't think so.
So, and then he traded some late picks and a future 4th for Randall Cobb. They're not, if everyone has a price, but I'll tell you, Aaron Rodgers really likes Randall Cobb and he's there because Aaron Rodgers wants him there. So I don't think they're trading him away. They already traded away Devontae Adams. They're not trading away Randall Cobb, but listen, it's your mock draft that, so, hey,
you do you, man.
You do you. Listen, Terry McLaurin's a great receiver. So, listen, he's great. I just don't think Washington.
That's not the problem. Like he's a great player. That's not the issue. The issue is if Washington actually going to give him up.
I just don't. Listen, there's a point where they would give him up. He offered enough. I just don't know. And then Aaron's not a fan of Randall Cobb because he thinks he's washed up. Want to say hey to Terry Jenkins here. TCR don't matter who's drafted. Okay, sure. Yeah, I guess not. So. Let's talk about the players, though. The trade. I'm not so sure that's how it would work out. That those.
I'd be ecstatic if that happened. Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, and AJ Green. Sign me up.
I'd love to have Terry McLaurin. I just don't know that they want to part with him, and I don't know that they would. Maybe they would do it for 1st and 2nd. I'm just not sure they would, but maybe. But Nick Benito, edge rusher that's been on here regularly. Dylan Parham, a guard that has been on a lot of these drafts.
No familiar face.
Yeah, Kalen Barnes, cornerback out of Baylor. Defensive interior, DJ Dale. Halfback, Jaron Ely. Tackle, Eric Swinson. Wide receiver, Devin Williams. So what are your thoughts on the players here?
All right, I'm just going to ignore the trades because we kind of already talked about that at length.
Listen, if you trade for Terry McLaurin,
if you trade for Terry McLaurin, I all the power to you, because my God, that's a trade. That's a trade that you pull off.
Got referencing Simon's trade last week. Danton Jones for Kyler Murray.
That happened last week.
Simon mixed things up for us. He got things going for us. He stirred it up, and he was intent. He was trying to get things going, and it made for some interesting stuff. So yeah.
Nick, you got to be a little nicer, man.
Oh, Nick,
this is not bad.
Nick doesn't like it.
This is not horrible. Excluding the trades that we don't know if we're going to happen or not. Yeah. This is not bad. Nick Benito, very developmental edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a Hassan Reddick type. Dylan Parham, we've talked at length, one of the best pass protecting guards you'll find in this draft class. Kalen Barnes ran 4.22, 4.2 whatever. Cornerback, go fast.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Dale, we need run help. Jordan Ely, Chase Edmonds, depth at tackle and wide receiver.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with this. Maybe exit up the last trade for Randall Cobb, because I don't like Randall Cobb either, personally. A little too old.
Yeah, and Chris is bringing up a point. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard the news on Terry, but he's getting to the point where he is going to be up for a big contract. And
if I'm him, I am pissed with Washington because they have given him nothing.
And I will just tell you, from a roster building perspective, you can't really pay 2 wide receivers top of the market money unless you're going to have a really bare roster in some other spots. I know some people like to say the salary cap isn't real, but you have to kind of you can have one big ticket receiver, another guy that's making decent money, and then you have to have some combination of developmental guys if you're going to invest in other positions. So I just don't know that you can have that much investment, but the player Terry McLaurin, I like. Nick Benito, I like. He's saying you can't pay Hopkins and Terry. Not possible unless you're going to really compromise other spots on the roster, right? Really, really. So, more so is trade Hopkins. All right, get a little saucy.
No.
So there we go. Right. Oh, but listen, Nick does have a point though. I think his criticism is fair that it's about the Matariza absence. So if that's the reason,
okay, there we go. If that's the reason, clown on it all you want.
But... I can't. Yeah. So part of the players on this mock draft don't look great because most of them are 6th and 7th round picks because of the trades and such. So there's a lot of late day 3 players, but Ely's a nice player. Parham's a nice player. So, man, it's interesting, right?
This is definitely out there.
Aaron's disagreeing that it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible. It's hard to do that, and
it's difficult, and we haven't shown the ability.
But here's the thing, and at the same time, though, some of those guys in the Rams aren't getting top of the market money. They're getting good contracts, but I don't think what's his name that they signed. What's his name they signed? The other receiver who was with the Bears. My brain's not working.
Allen Robinson.
Yeah. I don't think they're paying him top of the market money. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I thought he got like $10 million, but I could be
okay, wrong. Maybe a little more. But like your top of the market is 20. Yeah,
million. Your top market is like.
And I don't think you can. I don't think you can go with 2 receivers at that. Especially not when you're getting ready to pick Tyler. But interesting mock draft, Morris Legacy. Thank you for mixing it up. Definitely got the conversation going, right? Okay, Robinson got 15 mil. I think not 30, right? So
no, definitely not 30, but he's over 30. But definitely not 30.
There might be a little bit of an LA discount too. Yeah, 3 years, 45 million. Okay, that's so about 15. Okay,
yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next mock draft. Mr. Bernuto, who I know has been in the chat. So yeah, he's got a trade here, picked up a lot of picks, and when I see this many picks is like, let me start by saying, when I play Madden and I'm rebuilding a franchise, this is me, right? A hell of a ton of picks.
I feel attacked.
Yeah, no, but
me too.
But maybe, but in real life NFL, teams aren't typically picking this many players because often they don't have that many spots for rookies on the roster, right? Like you don't want that many rookies on your roster. You want some vets and some guys with a couple years experience. So I don't, that's my one critique there, that when I see that many picks, I don't think it's usually realistic. But with that said, let's look at the players, because I see some players are really liking this mock draft.
I like a lot of the players. I don't think we have enough room for all of them.
Yeah, that's kind of, Zion Johnson, love Zion Johnson. I think he's arguably one of the best. Realistically speaking, when the Cardinals pick at 23, assuming that's where they pick, I think Zion Johnson might be the most surefire star player there in terms of a guy who could be like an all-pro at his position. Right now, listen, there are always guys that go on day 2, that end up being that good, and you just never know. But in terms of a safe bet, if you say of all the guys who are likely to be there at 23, which guy would you be most likely to bet money on? This guy will be an all-pro. It's Zion Johnson for me, right? It's just really safe bet. So I like him. We got Enigbari, an edge rusher, Khalil Shakir, wide receiver from Boise State, Cordell Flott, Kyron Williams, running back, Noah Ellis, defensive tackle, Nafai Sewell, linebacker, Derek Deese, tight end, Luke Wandenberg, center, CJ Wright, defensive interior, who's kind of a little bit like, he'd probably be a 3-4 end for us. He's not a nose tackle build wise, I don't think. Kendrick Duncan, a safety, and then Matt Ariza. So, who stands out to you from this draft? And yeah, that's a solid mock draft. Matt Ariza, Wattenberg. Listen, that any critiques I offered there, Eduardo, are nullified by the fact that Matt Ariza and Wattenberg.
Matt Ariza is on this draft, so it's A is an official mock draft, and B, you can't hate on it.
Yeah, right.
So honestly, a lot of the points you said on Zion Johnson are very accurate. Zion Johnson might be the best interior offensive lineman in this class, minus Tyler Linderbaum, because Tyler Linderbaum's just head and shoulders above everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love that pick, especially trading down and getting him. I love the Enigbari pick because he can play defensive end and edge rusher. I'm a huge Khalil Shakir guy. I love that pick. Kyron Williams, I like that pick. He's literally just a Chase Edmonds who no one told him he was 5 foot whatever. No one told him that because he runs through everybody. Maybe a little slow, but for a running back, you can make do with whatever. And he hit a lot of positions of depth, like a lot of positions of depth.
Yeah.
A lot.
Real quick, I just want to hit on this. David Jones, a good question. To take Zion 23, is Jones a bust? We need pass rush, quarterback, wide receiver before another guard. So here's what I would say. Jones, Josh Jones was drafted as a tackle. He played tackle at Houston and was a graded really well at tackle. And they, he is best suited as a tackle. They played him at guard because that was kind of the only way to get him on the field, and because of, they didn't really have a solid starter at right guard. The right tackle, Kelvin Beachum, left tackle, DJ Humphries, those guys were entrenched as the starters. And they had this 3rd round pick in Jones who has some talent. And to get him on the field, they played him at guard. But he struggled at guard. He wasn't the worst player we had at guard, but he struggled. But when he got snaps at tackle, he was better. So I think Josh Jones is going to end up being, for now, a swing tackle, and then eventually a starter at one of the starting tackle positions at some point. I don't think it makes Jones a bust if we take Zion Johnson. It really, hopefully, it means they plan to move him back to his natural position. And I mentioned this in a video I did last week, actually, where I did a live mock draft and walked through the positions. An important thing to remember regarding the Cardinals is, like, after this 2022 season, they only have 2 offensive linemen who are under contract in 2023. Josh Jones and Rodney Hudson. Everyone else is a free agent after the end of this season. So they'll re-sign some of those guys. But I think they do need to look to the future. And Justin Pugh might retire after the season. I mean, I think when he did his announcement that he re-signed with them, he said something about, he had this Instagram or something post where he said something about, said I'd play for 9 years, but here I am signing my 10th year, something like that. So he might retire. We don't know for sure what's going to happen with right guard. So I think taking Zion Johnson is looking to the future of one of the guard positions. And I don't think it necessarily has to mean Jones is a bust. I get that pass rush is our biggest immediate need. Absolutely. I do like the edge rushers around too. Kingsley and Enigbari that Eduardo Bernudo took here is a nice kind of potential, day 2. So listen, I get it though. Like, wide receiver, cornerback, edge rusher are areas of need, but I think that I would feel good about taking Jones there Johnson there, because there's some players I like in day 2 at some of those other positions that might still be there. But it's a great question. There's a lot of different views on this. So Real quick, just a couple other. Yeah, this always gets me. PFF description Texans needs is everything, right?
I laughed so hard when I saw that.
Yeah,
And if you watch Tom Grassi and Brandon Perna's live streamer that did a mock draft, I think 2 weeks ago, oh, they were dying when they saw that.
yeah.
Oh, they were dying.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then a couple of things, Simon saying, he hasn't seen anyone mocked ahead of us take Zion. So me, if we take him at 23, I feel like maybe, and in my video that I did, I traded back a couple spots to 25, took Zion, and then got like an extra third rounder or something like that in there. So if, I wouldn't hate trading back a couple spots and taking him too, and if they can do that, right? Brett Coleman says Zion could be a Pro Bowler, which, that's not as high of a bar, unfortunately, as it used to be. But yeah, I think the potential upside is really high for him. But we'll see, right? And then Mr. Mono, thanks for being here. I think this is the first time I've seen you from you tonight, so appreciate seeing you there. I could see the Cowboys taking Zion, upgrade that aging line. Would be interesting to see if the Bengals would trade up with us to get ahead. Yeah, I think a lot of people think the Bengals trading up to 23 to try to take Linderbaum, right? And the Cardinals trading back. That's I think a really common thing that we're seeing. And then Jordan P saying, yeah, Pugh sounded like he was going to retire but didn't, right? Yeah. And then Teddy saying, as a Boise State fan, and Riley Wimpy Shakir would be good picks. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think obviously love Zion. Noah Ellis is a guy I like on day 3 as a nose tackle. I think Wattenberg's a nice, day 3 center, and obviously Ariza. So yeah, I think this is Mr. Edward, I wouldn't take this many players in the draft just from fitting them on the roster, but I like the players you took, right? So, all right, let's get to Lance S. I haven't seen Lance in the chat tonight, but really great support of the channel here. So, who's very involved in Discord as well. He did a couple trades here, and then he also had a bevy of picks.
Yeah, kind of the same problem.
Yeah. So we've got Nick Benito, Logan Hall, kind of a bigger defensive interior that that I think Vance Joseph went to his pro day, so it's a guy they have interest in.
Yeah.
John Mechie, third, wide receiver, James Cook, Brandon Smith, Brian Robinson, Jaden Peavy, Jason Poe, Deron Bland, Christopher Allen, Isaiah Weston, Austin Sogner, and Skylar Thompson, quarterback. So what stands out to you here?
Am I allowed to hate on a pick? Because if anyone knows me and has watched the draft mock draft Mondays before, I don't like the Logan Hall pick at all. I'm not.
You don't like which one? Okay,
Logan Hall. I'm not a big Logan Hall guy. A lot of the other picks I really like. I really love stealing Brandon Smith where he got him. Brian Robinson stole him again. Christopher Allen, we've talked about him a lot. A lot of the guys on the day 3 end are just depth guys. Skylar Thompson is going to fight with Trace McSorley for scout team. Nick Benito, we've talked about at nausea. I really love the John Mechie pick and the James Cook picks. Really love those 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
The only pick I really do not like is Logan Hall.
Okay.
Because I just don't like Logan Hall. I don't know what it is. I just don't like Logan Hall. I just don't like his tape.
Okay.
I see it and I don't think it's going to translate. He has to go to like one of the better coaching staffs for his game to translate, i.e. New England. For
me, Logan Hall, I haven't looked at his tape like you have. To me, he's more of a 3-4 defensive end, defensive end for us than an outside edge rusher, and he's not a nose tackle for us. So I think he's like a little redundant with what we have with Zach Allen and JJ Watt right now. And I think they need what they really need is either they need the nose tackle and the edge rusher, and he's in between those two. So that would be my one critique is that, but he went with Nick Benito, so he's got the edge rusher. So to me, maybe at that pick 55, rather than going with Logan Hall, maybe I'd go, a cornerback there, right, or another position. But I don't, I don't hate the player maybe as much as you do, but I get that. Mechie's a nice pick. James Cook, I love him as a receiving running back. Brandon Smith, if you haven't seen Brett Coleman has been doing his preview videos, and he put one out on linebackers. And Brandon Smith physically is one of the most gifted linebackers in the draft. He just needs some development. So that's an interesting pick. But so that's a guy who has like Pro Bowl upside if in terms of the talent. I like Jaden Peavy a lot as kind of a day 3 defensive tackle. I really like that pick there. And then I really like Isaiah Weston. He has the physical tools. He's the kind of receiver they want outside. He's been a lot of my mock drafts. On the video I did, he's on there, and he's a really great pick fit there. So yeah, there's some players I definitely like on this one. And but I hear you on the Logan Hall thing. Real quick, I want to say hey to Underscore who just popped in. What's deeper in this draft, offensive line or edge? I'll let you go and field that
definitely
one first.
Edge. That's not even up for debate.
It seems like edge definitely is. Offensive line, it seems like tackles deeper than guard and center, and guards deeper than center. But it does seem like edge is, right? Let's see.
Quick point that I just actually noticed. I don't know if Austin Stogner declared this year. Might be getting mixed up, but I don't think he declared this year.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll have to check.
Not 100%, like, don't quote me. Not 100% positive, but I don't know if he's coming out.
Yeah. Let me real quick comment on a couple of things. David has an interesting point here. I was hearing there's a problem trading back, meaning offloading Isabella 23 and 87 for 6 may be doable. So one of the things, and I think I posted something about this in the Discord that I think it was Ian Rappaport and Daniel Jeremiah, if I'm remembering correctly, were the two I saw. Both tweeted something to the effect that a lot of NFL teams are asking, are really hoping quarterbacks will go early, and a lot of teams are also hoping to trade back, but that there's not as many teams who want to trade up as there are teams that trade back. So I think what David's suggesting here is, well, because there's all these teams that want to trade back, but not enough teams want to trade up, are we going to be able to get a really good deal? I would say, but I don't think, like, to go from 23 up to 6, you're going to have to give up more than that. Because, like, even though like a team at number 6 is to go all there, if they trade back, they want to trade back to like number 9 or number 10 and get some picks, right? If they trade back to 23, they're expecting a future first round pick and probably a second round pick plus 23. So I don't
Carolina trading back with us.
Yeah. I don't think that the desperation to trade back is so intense that we would be able to get to number 6 for 23 and 87. I just don't see that happening.
Especially since Carolina would be purposely jumping behind all of the teams that need quarterbacks. The few teams that need quarterbacks, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, you could argue Philadelphia, Houston, Washington, Seattle, Atlanta. They would be jumping behind all these teams that need quarterbacks.
Yeah. So, like, I do think that, I think there's a nugget of truth to what you're saying here, David, that because teams are wanting to trade back and not as many teams are interested in trading up, there's a market imbalance there where you might be able to get a better deal than you would in other years. But I don't think the situation is so desperate that a team in the top 10 would trade back to 23 and for just like, for Isabella, who I just don't think has a ton of trade value and and pick 87. But it's an interesting question. Real quick, I want to say hey to my friend Beto, who's in here. Appreciate that he was doing a live stream earlier that I was listening in on, doing some good content for 49ers. Great dude, great support of the channel. So yeah, appreciate you being here. All right, so let's move on to our next mock draft. We got a lot of mock drafts today. A lot of folks submitted. So we have Brian Dark, who I haven't seen in the chat today. Now I'm gonna tell you, we got a few other mock drafts with some of this action going on. And this is one of those things, there's been a lot of chatter around the NFL about Jamison Williams, a lot of teams being really high on him. A lot of teams don't care about the injury, see him as a legitimate star. So there has been a lot of kind of chatter about the teams moving up, including people wanting the Cardinals to move up. So what Brian did here is he traded our first round pick, our third round pick, and a future second to move up to take Jameson Williams at number 10. Then he took McCreary at 55, who we both took. Guard Joshua Azudo. I probably mispronounced it.
Azudu? I don't know.
Yeah. Matt Ariza, Noah Ellis, James Empey, Kyron Johnson. What do you think? And I do kind of agree with Jordan Pierre. I think we would probably have to give up more to move up that much, to be honest. I think a future first rounder might, instead of that future second rounder, might do it. But what do you think? My favorite so far looks a lot like mine. Okay, nice. What do you think of this pick? What stands out to you?
Trading up for Jameson Williams. That's it's not outlandish because a lot of people would do it. I would do it if the price is right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I jump all the way up to 10 though, because I don't know if he's going to play right away because of the ACL injury. So you could have him fall a couple more picks and then get a discount because you're not trading up to 10. I don't know about just jumping up to 10 though. He made it work out here marginally because he didn't really address edge rusher until the last pick of the draft, which he might not even make the roster at that point. But trading up for Jameson Williams definitely is bold because it's a commitment. It's a 1-year commitment. If Jameson Williams doesn't work out, then Tom's probably out of a job.
Yeah. Hey, Lance just jumped in here. We just went over yours, so you might have to go back and watch it. Sorry you missed that. Appreciate you being here. Real quick, want to say hey to LVL7. Thanks for being here. He thinks Pickens is just as good at 23. We talked about Pickens a little bit earlier. I don't know, man. I think Williams is better, but I do agree with the sentiment that for me, I'm not trading up to pick 10 to take a receiver. This is just okay. This is a personal philosophy thing for me, I guess, but I'm not trading up in the first round really aggressively unless I'm going after a quarterback. That's me. And I get if people have different philosophies, and that's cool. There are so many good players that end up getting taken in round 2 and late in round 1. And so that's my philosophy, but I understand why people want to trade for him. I think he's a really talented player, but I'm not personally doing that, but that's me. I love Noah Ellis here. McCreary is a good pick. So I get a lot of fans want a lot of Cardinals fans would love to see the scenario. For me, I'm leery of that, but the talent's there, no doubt.
Yeah, talent's definitely there. I'm a little on the fence because I would have personally, if I were to make this move up, maybe have gone a few different positions in the on day 3, aside from Matt Ariza and Noah Ellis, because those two are pretty much locks. But aside from that, I'd probably move around a little more, a few of the guys. But if you manage to get Jameson Williams, if you move up for Jameson Williams, and you make the rest of the draft work out, power to you. Power to you, Steve Keim.
Yeah, for sure. Got a question. Is there any talk of taking any talk of taking the North Dakota wide receiver Christian Watson? I haven't heard anything that says that the Cardinals are eyeing him there. I have heard I have heard talk that he could go in the first round. He could climb up there, but I don't know that the Cardinals. I mean, you never know. Sometimes they don't. They keep their they're kind of they kind of hold their cards close to their chest or whatever the saying is, and they don't tell us what they're planning to do. So maybe they're eyeing him, but I haven't heard anything linking them to him there. But I love the talent. Jordan P is saying my argument for trading for Jameson is that you wait till 55. I'm going to some receivers will be there since there will be a big run in receivers of the current wide receiver market. More teams want to get younger, and I hear you there. But for me, I would rather than trade up, I'd either stay at 23 and go with a guy, like Trey Burks, or maybe even trade back in the early second round and get a Christian Watson or an Alec Pierce, who I love, or George Pickens. So for me, I think there's a middle ground where you can trade back or try to get a receiver kind of earlier in round 2. I think there's guys like Pierce. And Watson. I think are going to be so good. Watson's drops. That is a concern. So I think Pierce is probably the guy I even like better, right? Beto doesn't want Pierce going to the Cardinals because he doesn't want to face him twice a year, right? And then Olave is an interesting guy. Like, I think Olave to me is like the safest receiver in the draft. Like the guy who is gonna be like a high end number 2. I think he could be a number 1, but at least a high end number 2. I really like Olave, but he maybe doesn't have the same upside as some of the other players. But but okay. So, but I think we're gonna see this theme, right? There's gonna be some other Jameson Williams picks, I can tell you. But let's look at Chris Young's, who I know I've seen in the chat here. So Chris, I know you're here somewhere, or you were here. He also did a trade that I don't think is gonna happen. I don't like Andy Isabella in a second for Jerry Jeudy and a third. I don't think Denver would do that trade. But
I mean, if they would, hey,
I'm all over that if they would, but I don't think they would. But also did another move to get us some extra picks, traded back a little bit. And then he took Zion Johnson, Cam Taylor-Britt, cornerback, Alex Wright, the edge who I profiled here, Donovan West, Keontae Ingram, halfback, Zach Thomas, a tackle, Cameron Latu, who's actually not declared. We've talked about that before, unfortunately, but you could plug in a different tight end there. Darian Butler, linebacker, punter, Ryan Stonehouse. It is not. It's the last mock draft. Hey, why not, right? Hey, Zach or Lance, thanks for being here. Appreciate you popping in. Hopefully you can see how we try not to be too harsh on your mock draft, but there were a lot of picks there, that's for sure.
But a lot of picks.
Yeah, and so what stands out to you about this draft?
Well, for one, PFF is mean because Alex Wright grading that as an F. That's pretty mean. PFF is cold-hearted. But as far as the rest of the draft goes, Cameron Latu, I don't think's declaring. Cameron Latu's the one we went over, right? He's not declaring.
To my understanding, I've looked it up a couple times and I don't see that he is. So I don't know why they still have him on there, but yeah.
It's PFF. They'll fix it. They'll fix it never.
Yeah, right.
I would have maybe gone a different running back personally, but aside from that, and the fact that Cameron Latu is not declaring, I like the draft. That's a little high, and for my taste for Cam Taylor-Britt, but I still like the draft. Just change Ryan Stonehouse to Matt Ariza.
I'm guessing Ariza's probably gone, or I don't know, maybe not.
I'm guessing.
Chris might be the Stonehouse truther who keeps telling us that his average, his net average was like 0.1 yard difference or something like that. So maybe he is all about Stonehouse.
Ariza was gone.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were here, Chris. I think you might have suggested I did profile Alex Wright, and I think you might have suggested that in Discord. So we talked about him earlier. I like the positions. Maybe again, I'd probably go with a different halfback, but hey, I like mixing it up. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the same names, so I don't hate that. Alex Wright, Cam Taylor-Britt. If you can pull off the Jerry Jeudy trade, but I do tend to agree with Jordan P here that, I don't think Isabella has really a trade value right now. I think what I heard was that they gave him the ability to seek a trade, and nothing's materialized. So I don't think anyone's trading for him. I think people are going to wait for him to get cut. But he had
one reception last year.
Yeah.
Against the Lions.
I think in the right situation, he could be a nice part of a team's depth chart. It didn't work out here. I actually think, I'll tell you, I was thinking about this earlier. I actually think a really good team for Andy Isabella would be to go to Kansas City because they like small, fast receivers.
That's kind of why I keep trading him to Kansas City.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that could be an interesting fit, right? I did not see his mock draft. He has us getting singly at 23.
That is
Yeah, right. At
outrageous.
least for more. Yeah, if
That
we
is
got that,
outrageous.
that'd be great, right?
We
Brian, I
would be
think we
doing
went over you.
backflips.
He's worth a 6th rounder at best, yeah. And if anyone's even willing to trade that, and we don't need any more 6th rounders, right?
Oh yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
we're good. We're good with
yeah.
day 3 picks. We're
And
good.
Brian, I think we went over yours earlier, but yeah. And yeah, Chris had the same issue I had with Edge, right? He wanted to get interior defensive line, but it just fell poorly. It happens sometimes, right? You just kind of got to roll with it, right? So yeah, Robert Moore's not a fan of taking cornerback in 23. You'll notice I don't take a lot of quarterbacks in the first round. I usually take them a little bit later, so I tend to be with you. So yeah, there's some nice players on here though. So yeah, I obviously like Zion Johnson for sure a lot. Yeah. All right. So the next mock draft is Bear, who was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still in here or not. So let's see. We have another traded back. This is the same trade I think I made in my video where I traded back 2 spots and got a 3rd round pick. So so I like that trade. Obviously, took Zion Johnson, then Kingsley Barre, then traded back again, traded up, right? Traded up to get Alec Pierce, and I like that. I like Alec Pierce a lot. And I don't mind trading up because, like, when you're in the middle rounds, if you trade up, you're not giving up as much, right? So, he was able to get that trade for a 6th and a 7th round to move up a couple spots. I don't know if you might have to give up more in real life, maybe not, but I like that. I love Alec Pierce, so I love that. James Cook, Sean Jolly, Noah Ellis, Ryan Vandermark. What do you think about this one?
I mean, giving up a third, getting rid of some of our day 3 picks, and moving up in the 3rd. I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. We've won over a lot of the players on this list. Sean Jolly at App State is probably the guy I would be most excited for to see if he makes a team and be a depth corner, be a nickel dime corner. I would love to see that. But a lot of the rest of this draft is a lot of just what we went over at nausea already of just get players that are either really good starters or really good depth.
Yeah, Bear, I think Bear, you're getting rave reviews. Folks really like your mock draft, and I agree. I think it's a really good mock draft. Real quick, Daryl Gray, thanks for being here. I like to get at least one comment from every person who's in here. So, I think Chris Sims. I like Chris Sims. I think he does know football well. I just think sometimes players who know football well don't always know aren't always really on top of how teams rank prospects, because teams look at projections, not just how they've played. But so maybe he gets a little mixed up there, but I do like him. Real quick, want to say hey to Calvin. Thanks for being here. It'd be interesting to see how the cards pick versus your mock drafts. Also, what grade Con gets when it's all said and done. Looking forward to Thursday. Go Cards. Yeah, and let me use this as a quick reminder. I'm going to be doing a live stream hangout for the first round Thursday. Just, going to have me in here, a few other folks. Maybe we'll see. I'm not sure who all be in here. Just hanging out, watching the draft, talking about the picks as they come off the board for the first round. So if you're at home watching watching the first round of the draft, and you want to tune into a live stream and hang out, please check it out. I've already got the link up, so we're going to be doing that. So let's see. Yeah, I think this is a really good mock. I love Ellis there. I love, Zion Johnson. I love Alec Pierce, James Cook. We've talked about all these guys. Real quick, Ryan Vandermark showed up on a lot of mock drafts, and I've never really taken him, but I will say, one of the things I did recently is I started looking at some of the players. I've been using that relative athletic score website, and if you haven't familiar with it, it's ras.football, and it's relative athletic score, and it's an interesting site that gives you some information about the athletic traits of players. And in the video that I posted last week where I did my mock draft, I talked about this a little bit, that players in the late rounds, there are players in there who have really good athletic traits but haven't necessarily developed or performed and need to be coached up. And then there are players who were good college players but don't have NFL traits. And teams look for those guys with the NFL traits, because if you get guys like last year, we drafted that center Michael Manet, who was I think he might have been a 4-year starter in college, if I'm not mistaken, at Penn State. Solid college center, but didn't have the athletic traits to make it in the NFL. And he didn't even stick on our practice squad. It was kind of a wasted pick. And same thing with Evan Weaver a couple of years ago, middle linebacker. So when we're looking at those 6 and 7 round picks, I'm really looking for guys with those traits. And Ryan Vandermark when I looked at him on the relative athletic score, he's got some pretty good athletic traits. So I think that's why he ends up getting picked a lot there. So I don't know much about him as a player, but he seems to have the athletic traits that you take a shot with. So let's see. You want to just this isn't an A++ though, because no matter Isa. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that keeps this from being perfect, right? Aside from that, this is a really good trade. And he's saying he didn't force the trade. I know Robert's asking about that. So
no, if the trade was forced, the grade next to it would not be there.
Yeah. There you go. Next to the trade. That's right. So I think this is a solid mock draft. I really like this. For sure. Especially, man, Alec Pierce. Jackson Kruger Sports did a video on Alec Pierce. So if you've subscribed to him, he does some nice film study stuff. I'd love to get Alec. If we could get Alec Pierce in round 3, I'd be ecstatic. I'd take him in round 2. I think he's the day 2 receiver. I'm really think could really be a great fit, but we'll see. K1 since day 1. So we've got Jordan P, another Jameson Williams trade scenario. So also trade up for number 10. So you take Jameson Williams. And we talked about a little bit earlier, Josh Pascal, who I love and you hate because of what he did to your Florida, or to your is it Florida State or Florida?
Florida Gators. Yeah,
Florida Gators. Okay.
Florida Gators. It's because Marco Wilson threw a shoe the year before, and then Josh Pascal murdered us.
So I love Josh.
Can never escape it.
Yeah, I love Josh Pascal as a day 2 edge rusher for us. I love that. He said he tried to make it realistic, more real, and I do think this is a little more realistic, giving that first round pick in the trade. So yeah, I think again, I wouldn't do that trade, but I will say, but that we already talked about. That's my personal take, my approach, but I think it's a realistic looking trade. Love Pascal. James Cook is a great fit there. And then we've got Joshua Azundo, who I don't really know much about, guard from North Carolina. Doug Kramer, a center from Illinois. Connor Hayward and Wanya Thomas. I apologize to Mr. Thomas for not pronouncing his name correctly. A safety out of Georgia Tech. So what do you think? What stands out to you about this?
Again, it's just that trade up, man. It's just, I don't know if I'd personally give that much for a receiver who could possibly fall. Granted, I know in PFF he's graded, 9th on their board, so he's not going to fall in PFF. But realistic sake, he did just tear his ACL. And I know that they say that he's way ahead of schedule on. When do you not hear someone say they're way ahead of schedule? You always say that, because if you say you're behind schedule, that you look bad.
Yeah,
I'm a little more. I want to see him in a couple of more practices before I say he's way ahead of schedule. But again, it's just giving up that much for Jameson Williams. I don't know if I would do that, and I don't know if this is as effective as the last mock draft. I like Josh Pascal's a great player. James Cook's a great player. Joshua, whatever. I'm sorry, Josh. Doug Kramer. Right. They're very good offensive linemen for depth. Connor Hayward, I don't know if I would pick him. A little more of a, is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? And I don't know if I'd pick a depth safety, because our safety room is the best room on our team besides quarterback.
Yeah,
I'd like to see a true nose tackle here somewhere.
I'll tell you, I don't like. Again, we've talked about the Jameson Williams thing is a matter of preference. There are a lot of fans who are completely on board for trading up for him, and then those of us who aren't. And it's, I mean, it's like Coke and Pepsi. Like there's Ford and Chevy. You're either on one side or the other. And I'm not going to try to continue to convince someone, who wants to trade for him that they shouldn't. I mean, some people think we should, some think we shouldn't. that's fine. I love the Pascal pick. I like James Cook. Hayward's an interesting one because he's like 6 foot. I think they have him as a tight end, but he's like an H back. He's going to be a good player in the right situation. Like New England would find a way to use him and use him well, right? Or I could maybe even see him going to like Green Bay because they're part of the Kyle Shanahan kind of or the Shanahan coaching, right? And he could be their version of Juszczyk, right? So I could see him going to Green Bay and being kind of Juszczyk. I just don't know how he would fit here. But and Jordan P. Listen, I think Jameis Williams is a great talent. I am in no way contesting the talent, not for a second. I'm just, for me, with the way I approach it, I'm not trading up there for him. But I am in no way challenging the talent. He may end up being the best receiver in this class. I like Drake London a little better as a player for just what I like. But no, I'm not contesting the talent. For me, I'm not moving up there for a receiver, but that's me. Again, it's just everyone has their own opinions. So, I think for me, I love Pascal, I love Cook. I don't know, like when I look at, like, for example, on Bears, Noah Ellis and Alec Pierce. Well, Noah Ellis really, actually, let's go back to the last one that had the Jameson. Yeah. Okay. So the last pick where we had Jameson, maybe like on the Noah Ellis pick really kind of helped me to like this one a little bit better on day 3, if that makes sense. But, maybe I'm just biased. I really like Noah Ellis. Right. But listen, it's a solid, there's some really solid players here. Again, we're talking preferences, right? Miss Romano, he likes London better too. But, Raphael saying he's not trading up 13 spots for a freshman swap next year from a team most likely picking her later first. Okay. So, listen, we all have our preferences and opinions. So, all right. So let's move on to the next one, which is another Jameson Williams, Desert Sports /AZ Sports Fan 20. He also traded up, though. He only traded up to pick 13. So he didn't move up as aggressively. He got Jameson Williams there, Kingsley Enagbare, Kobe Bryant, the same guard, Azundo, Ty Chandler, who is a favorite of a few folks in here, Brock Purdy. Here's Drew McWhorter. Okay, this is Drew McWhorter. Okay, this is you. Okay, good to know. So this is Drew McWhorter's. Ty Chandler, Brock Purdy, James Empey, DJ Davidson. What are your thoughts here?
This is more the scenario I would prefer to trade up for Jameson Williams. You're not giving up nearly as much, and you could still potentially build out your roster in the draft. Like, Jameson Williams is a great talent. We're not arguing that. That's not in debate. That's never going to be in debate. Kingsley Enagbare, I would love as just a rotational defensive end for the first part of his career, and then turn him into an edge rusher. Turn him into a full-time edge rusher.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, as we said earlier, he won the Jim Thorpe Award. He was playing opposite of Sauce Gardner with a limited, I want to say, playing competition, I guess. But winning the Jim Thorpe Award, kind of, you still have to have some talent there.
Yeah.
I maybe would not have taken a quarterback, maybe, personally. But aside from that, the rest of this draft looks really, really solid.
Yeah. Again, Jameson Williams as a talent, I love. I can live with trading this trade better than some of the others, but I'm still not. For me, I'm not doing it. But like I said, those of you who want to trade up for him, then for you, this is a good, good pick, right? A good move. Enagbare got a nice edge rusher there. Got a cornerback in round 4 with some upside. I need to look at this guard because I've never really looked at Joshua Ezeudu really before to know much about him. Obviously, with Ty Chandler, we love. I'm with you that I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. I know they've met with a few quarterbacks at pro days and things like that, but a lot of times teams will meet with players that they hope they will sign as undrafted free agents. They'll meet with guys that they don't think will get have a chance to not be drafted, so they already have that relationship with them. They met with, I think, the quarterback out of Brown University and such. I don't think they're drafting a quarterback because they've got Kyler, Colt McCoy, and Tracy McSorley, I could see them signing an undrafted free agent to have in camp and maybe have on the practice squad. I just don't think they're drafting one. That's just, but who knows? They could surprise me. But love Ty Chandler there. Absolutely love that pick. I will say, I know you really like James Empey. When I looked at his relative athletic score, it's not as high as some of the other centers there. So my fear with him is he's one of these guys who played well in college, but might be like a Michael Manet and not necessarily have the traits. That's just my fear. We'll see, right? Wattenberg, a guy who I like in day 3, has better athletic score. So if I'm, and also the guy out of Illinois, we've seen a few times, I think Doug Kramer, I think it is. So if I'm going for a center on day 3, I'm looking at athletic traits, and maybe I've just been burnt by the Michael Manet thing last year. That's my take. But real quick, want to say hey to AA. I think it's the first comment from you tonight. So I always try to make sure to get at least one comment in from everyone. Agree on loving London's ability to make contested catches, but a big reason he needed to make so many was he couldn't get separation. A bit concerning. I think he goes into the NFL.
I can see both. I can see both sides of this argument because his lack of separation is a thing, but his quarterback was. Why am I forgetting his name now? Because it's how bad it was. So why am I forgetting his name? Because he was supposed to be a first-round pick when.
I don't remember. Yeah, I think.
Oh, why am I forgetting his name?
I mean, if you remember, that's we can come back to that. But I've seen some film on London and some evaluations, and people talked about there's some that for a big receiver, there's some things he does very nicely, though. There's some things he does very well. I like London a lot. Again, we'll see how it works out, but I think he's a lot of people compare him to Mike Evans. I know Mike Evans is a little faster, but I think London's going to be really good. But so is Jameson Williams, right?
Quarterback named Keaton Slovis.
Thanks for being here. That was my concern with London as well. Dude is a ball hawk, but sketchy separation. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. And Mr. Mono saying you guys need to watch London in his routes again. The quarterback under threw him, so it could be that too as well. So, yeah. All right. So I told you there'd be a handful of mock drafts with Jameson Williams. So there's some nice players in here, though. Definitely, I love the Ty Chandler pick. I know Nick L does as well. So there's some really nice players here. Our next mock draft is Charlie Magic, and Charlie went with George Pickens at 23, Nick Bonito, Donovan West. This guard keeps showing up. I need to check him out. Josh Azudu.
He falls a lot. So I don't know if it's just PFF being weird. Because it's like he's graded 133, but they pick him at 201. So I don't know what PFF's doing here.
I think part of what's happening with some of that is that they adjusted their rankings. So a lot of players have been moved up or down. And I think people like us who've been doing these mock drafts for a while aren't as familiar with some of those names that they moved up. So all of a sudden, a guy like Josh Azudu is here showing up on mock drafts like, I don't know anything about him, so I'm not going to pick him, and he keeps sliding. So I think stuff that happens. And then Charlie's got Curtis Brooks, defensive interior out of Cincinnati. Noah Ellis, guy I like. Vincent Gray, cornerback, and Ryan Vandemark. So he doubled up on defensive interior. I wonder how big Brooks is. I wonder if he's more of
I think he's more of a defensive end. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's more of the Cincinnati.
I mean, Noah Ellis is definitely a nose.
Noah Ellis is a nose tackle.
So what are your thoughts on this mock draft?
Curtis Brooks is a defensive end, 6'2", 285. He's going to play that defensive end role.
Okay. Yep. So
a lot of this is really what we've been over before. Just pick best player available, but make sure you hit some of our biggest needs, because of our biggest needs, especially front seven and wide receiver and corner, just make sure you get depth and or starters at these positions, and you walk away from this draft a winner.
Yeah.
But you have to draft Matt Araiza too. That's a problem. We need Matt Araiza here somewhere. We need that.
We talked about this earlier. Daryl's talking about the character concerns with Pickens to go in the first round. And, I like Pickens as a fit. We talked about this earlier, but if I'm not taking him at 23, if I really want him as my receiver, he's the guy I want, I'm trying to trade back and get him later. or I'm trying to do something where I move up in the second round to get him and, trade trade number 55. Maybe I go a different position at 23 and then I trade pick 55 and, a fourth rounder from next year or fifth, whatever it takes to move up into the 40s, right? Or something like that to take Pickens in the second round. I'm not taking him at 23. But I do like the player. I'm just not taking him at 23 with those questions and concerns. That's, and I don't think you have to. I think you can trade if the Cardinals really like him, they could trade back and still get him and then add picks. So I like the player. I hear the concerns, right? But yeah. So, Jordan P saying about the Joshua Azudu, has flexibility since played left tackle and guard, has a 77.8 PFF grade. I'd be interested to see what his athleticism kind of numbers are like. He might, he's probably a guy, they have him as a guard, so he's probably one of those guys, right? And Chris is saying, maybe having D-Hop and Green locker might help Pickens with some of the attitudes. Just hopefully, I mean, that could be right potentially.
Green is literally his pro comp, so
yeah. So that's a possibility. But again, if I'm doing that, I'm trying to do it while trading back. Benito, though, great. We take him a lot, right? I love Ellis. I don't know much about Brooks, Donovan West. I think this is overall. Again, I would have tried to trade back if I'm getting Pickens, but overall, I like the players here that Charlie's got. So, let's see. So our next mock draft, the real BS from Twitter. So
love that username.
Yeah, right. And I follow him on Twitter. He follows me, and he's real active on Twitter. So this is an interesting one because I don't know if this is the first, but it's one of the few times we've seen George Karlaftis show up in one of these mock drafts. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Karlaftis on Twitter, but he's not been popular in these mock drafts, right? Because we haven't been taking him. But he is a guy the Cardinals met with, so there have been some link to him. And then he managed to get Travis Jones at 55, right? Like, I would be ecstatic if they got Jones here. Jordan P is saying most realistic kind draft, Karlaftis at 23, right? So this is an interesting one. And then
Pearson
we've got Alec Pierce at 87. I'm telling you,
Mario Goodrich out of Clemson.
If they somehow NFL or the Draft Network trends players differently than PFF, so absolutely, and so these are going to fall differently. If they manage to get Jones at 55 and Pierce at 87, I would call the draft a win, regardless of what they do at the other picks. Maybe that's a little hyperbole, but like, man, those would be, I would be ecstatic to get those two players there. And then Mario Goodrich, cornerback out of Clemson, Jack Snyder, interior offensive line, San Jose State, Devontae Price, running back out of Florida National, Nick Grant, safety out of Virginia. So what stands out to you about this one?
You need to play a lottery because you are one lucky something I can't say because this is a Christian server.
Oh no, it's just a family thing.
Families, yeah.
We're not
something I can't say. How about that?
We're a family
something
group.
I can't say.
Yes.
This is really good mock. Boosted the front seven up tremendously with Karlaftis and then Travis Jones. Mm-hmm. That's a win. You got Alec Pierce to play probably fourth or third receiver, depending on where they play Rondale Moore this season. Mario Goodrich to play the dime or nickel corner. I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
And then solid depth players on the rest of day 3. Very big win. We can't blame him for not taking Matt Araiza because there are no special teamers on the Draft Network. So we can't blame him. We can't hate on him for it. We're just going to have to live with it. No Matt Araiza.
Yeah. And real quick, Hookah Therapy saying this RC3, they should let Adrian Wilson draft instead of Kime. I think there's a lot of Cardinals fans who would.
What's up, RC3?
Yeah. That's right. That's, RC3. Yeah. And then, Jordan's got a good point. The most realistic Kime draft is Devin Lloyd, right?
Please don't say that out loud. Please don't say that out loud.
Right.
If we're going to be sitting
Rashad,
there and just praying to God we don't hear linebacker.
right. Rashad saying, I just can't see in this management to go defense first 2 rounds. That's a fair point too. They've gone defense in the first round the last couple of years. People have talked about that. So maybe they go offense in one of those 2 picks, right? I will say this. Listen, I'm not the hugest Karlaftis fan. I think he's fine. I think he'll be a good player. He's just the kind of player I like in the second round, those power rushers. But if they had those first 3 picks, if it somehow landed that way, I would be really happy, even with the fact that I'm not as big in Karlaftis. Some of the guys on day 3, I'm not as familiar with. Anyone on any of those day 3 picks sent out to you?
Aside from Mario Goodrich, not really, because the rest of these guys are just going to be depth players.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Goodrich is like the only one of these 4 that has the chance to start and be very, very good.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, we're going to move on to our next one, which is Rafael Castillo, who I know has been in the chat tonight. So we have a return of Chris Olave, who showed up in the first round for me a lot. And we talked about him a little bit. I like Olave. I think he's a really safe, solid receiver there. He maybe doesn't have the same upside as some of the other ones. Pascal, James Cook, Curtis Brooks, Cole Turner, Wattenberg, Rivas, Stonehouse. And he's got a comment here, so let's take a look at. For mine, I kept it simple. We need to win this year, as it's most likely last year we play with Murray under his rookie contract. So I wanted the best chance at impact players with each of my picks. Okay. So, he got, and and Robert Moore likes this draft. And yeah, I think like what you did here, if with this rationale that you're trying to win as soon as possible, you got a receiver who I think Chris Olave is a guy who I think there are guys with bigger upside, but he's the guy who I think has the best chance to step right in and play. Maybe him and Jahan Dotson. Dotson probably could too, but Olave is just that guy. I could see him as a nice number 2 receiver. Maybe he doesn't have the same upside, but he would immediately, in my opinion, be getting open and, yeah. And yeah, Rashad agrees with that mindset. It's a good draft, or it's accomplished what's set out, right? I love Josh Pascal. We've talked about him before. James Cook, arguably the best receiving running back. I'm taking running back on day 3 in my draft, but if you're trying to get someone impact, I love that. Again, don't know a lot about Curtis Brooks, but good, you could shore up that defensive interior line at the 3-4 defensive end. Cole Turner, we've talked about. Wattenberg, gives us a backup center with potential starter future. Rivas, a depth guard. Punter and Stonehouse. So yeah, and I think Jordan P's got a point. I'm not sure he makes it there either. If he's there at 23, I'm really strongly considering him, but I think there's a good chance he's gone by then, which I would generally agree with that. So yeah, I think with what Raphael is trying to accomplish here, I think it's a really good draft. Maybe there's a few other players on day 3 I might have gone differently, but that's just preference, right? So yeah, I think you did a good job of getting us some players that really make a difference if you're trying to really, really focusing on win now. Yeah. What do you think?
This comment from Brian, I don't know if it's true or not, but that would be very great if it is true.
I don't know. I didn't see it, but I think it's a foregone conclusion that they were going to do that, right? I mean,
I would imagine.
Yeah, so
I don't know if it's true or not, but
they're going to if they haven't. I'll say that, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think this is a solid draft. Any thoughts on this before we move on to the next one?
Quick thought for just in general. If you are still in the chat, you better hit that like button because my God, especially if you're on the East Coast like me, it is late.
Yes,
we have been going for a while. You need to hit that like button.
Hour and a half, but that's the last mock draft Monday, so we're going out with the bang, right? So please do click the like. Thank you, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you for the reminder. Definitely appreciate that. All right, so our next mock draft, Rashad, who I see is in the chat. So Rashad did a trade. Now I'm going to tell you right off the bat, he traded back with Drake London still on the board. Now I know Rashad loves Alec Pierce, which I do too. So he traded back at Alec Pierce instead. But I got to say, for me, Drake London's still on the board at 23. I'm taking him. I understand we had a conversation about it earlier. Not everyone believes in him. So this is just my take. But in general, I do like trading back, right? You know that I love trading back. Jordan Pierce would or Jordan P would take Pierce at 29 over Lund 23. Again, we all have our, kind of our preferences. But for me, I would, if London is there 23, I'm taking him. That's me, but I get it. But I do in general, I'm a fan of trading back in theory. So if London isn't there, I love trading back. So he trades back, he gets Alec Pierce, who I really like. David Ojabo, guy who's going to have, not really contribute this year, but has first round talent potential. I know some people are concerned about that Achilles, how much that's going to matter for his future. But then you get Breece Hall, a really great running back, the immediate impact, tight end Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State. And then you get an edge in Sam Williams, who at least is healthy, right? So he's a guy, I know you may not be as big.
At least he's healthy.
But for me, when I saw that Ojabo pick, I was like, he's not. I love the player, the potential, but we need an edge who's going to play. And then I see, okay, well, he gets Sam Williams, so maybe Sam Williams becomes that guy who can play now, and then we develop Ojabo. So that made me feel better about that. Josh, is it Job or Joby? I'm not sure it's pronounced. Cornerback.
Josh Job. Job.
Justin Schaffler, offensive guard out of Georgia. Bo Melton, receiver out of Rutgers, and Percy Butler, he's a safety out of Louisiana, I think. And I think I know Butler's a really good special teams player. What's your thoughts on this?
Swap David Ojabo and Alec Pierce, and I'd be a lot happier with it, because I'm just personally not taking Alec Pierce in the first round.
Okay.
Especially over, like, say, you trade down with Drake London on the board for Alec Pierce. Like, that's pretty big of a drop off in my personal opinion. So I personally swap David Ojabo and Alec Pierce, and then I'd be a little happier with it. Again, I'd probably look for a defensive lineman, because our defensive line is very bad. I don't think a lot of people realize how bad it's going to be, but it's going to be really bad. Really, really bad.
Okay. Yeah. And real quick, I was looking at, someone mentioned there was a Brian Darko posted in Discord a tweet from Bob McManaman that confirmed that the Cardinals will be picking up Kyler Murray's fifth-year contract by the May 2nd deadline, which guarantees him a salary around $28 million. Both sides are expected to eventually agree to a rework deal at some point this summer. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured was going to happen. That's kind of seems to be something that was all but inevitable. So good to see that, though.
I am inevitable.
Yeah. So yeah, I like some of the players. I love Alec Pierce again. I don't know if I'd take him at 29, but I love Alec Pierce. We talked about that earlier. Let's see. Rashad saying didn't like any of the interior guys available over who we have currently. Okay.
That must be saying a lot, because that's saying a lot.
Wow. We've talked about this before. I'm not really running back on day 2 I can live with, but I'd rather take him in day 3. But Breece Hall is a great player. Sam Williams, I like getting him a little bit later. Bo Melton's a nice pick later. Percy Butler really helps special teams. So, I like a lot of the players here. Maybe the value of where they were taken. There's a few of them I might quibble with, but I like some of the players here. So Jordan's saying, would you all be against trading up for Jermaine Johnson? I think he's the second best edge behind Hutchinson. He's a monster. What do you think?
I don't know if I'd trade up. Like, this class is so stacked at edge rusher. You could probably find somebody marginally worse than Jermaine Johnson if you stay at 23, or trade up a lot less than what's going to take to get Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson's a great player, but I don't know if I'd trade up for him, because this class is so loaded at edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to get a starter at edge rusher probably in the 5th round. It's that ridiculous.
Yeah. I like Johnson. I think, the question is, when we say trade up, what do we mean? I'm not trading up. Like I said earlier, I'm not trading up for anyone. If I don't need a quarterback, I'm not trading up in the top half of the first round for anyone. But if you were talking about trading up maybe 3 spots, 4 spots, and giving up a future something like a third rounder, I could live with it. But there are guys I like as much who will be there. Yeah, and he's asking who would be available 23 Ebiketie, Bonito, maybe. I'm telling you, a lot of people really like Johnson as maybe Jermaine Johnson, one of the best edge rushers, but there's a lot of advanced metrics that have Ebiketie as like one of the best edge rushers in this class, like in terms of win rates and things like this.
He's very technically sound for not
so for
producing
me,
a lot compared to the rest of the guys.
I like Johnson, but with as deep as this edge class is, I'm not trading up really personally. I would rather sit there, take Ebiketie than give up draft capital for a guy who, might be better, but they're not. I don't think it's that much of a difference. And Ebiketie could be better. It just depends, some people, Daryl Gray says he would trade up the end because TJ Watt upside, and it's hard to tell, right? But then Robert Moore, I wouldn't. He was top picking that, but he's definitely a beast, but he wouldn't. Listen,
it's all a matter of opinion. It's a matter of opinion.
This is one of the fun parts about the draft, though, right? That we get to kind of wrestle with this, right? So personally, I'm not, but especially with as deep as this edge rusher class is. All right, Sheldon, we've got Sheldon's, and I'm going to give Robert, let's see, real quick, a heads up to Robert Moore. Yours is coming up soon. I'm just going to give you a heads up. I know, so he wanted to know when his was coming. Sheldon did a couple trades to move back at a couple different points, which I'm always a fan of getting more draft capital. He got us some more day 2 and early day 3 picks. So he traded back. He got Travis Jones, which I did in mine. Drake Jackson, another one of those edge rushers, is out there. Jalen Tolbert, a receiver, in round 2 out of South Alabama. Kellen Dyche, a guy who has potential to develop into a starting tackle. He probably needs to get some added muscle, but he's a guy who could become a future starting left tackle in this league. Pierre Strong, who's shown up in a couple mock drafts, really great running back there in round 4. Deron Bland, Brad Hawkins, safety, Ryan Vandermark, and Vincent Gray. So what are your thoughts on this draft?
Building for the future with this draft. A lot of building for the future. Drake Jackson would probably be a situational pass rusher. Like, he'd only be brought in on third downs early in his career, but later on in his rookie deal, he'd be a monster. Mm-hmm. Travis Jones is, in my opinion, our biggest need is nose tackle, because our run defense was horrible last year, and now we don't have a nose tackle. Mm-hmm. So how does that help? Jalen Tolbert, I love the pick. And a lot of the rest of the guys, I love the pick. I maybe would not have gone safety because, again, our safety room is that good. But that's personal preference. If you want him for special teams, if you just want him to replace, say, Chris Banjo or Charles Washington, that's fine. I just personally wouldn't go safety. I'm personally happy with what we have at safety.
Yeah, I think if you're going safety here, you're probably just going special teams depth. And, they've got like a Deontay Thompson, who this last year of his deal, they've had a couple of those guys that they could, I think we did re-sign Banjo, but he's, they also cut him. He didn't make the open, the week 1 roster last year, and they re-signed him. He's bounced around on the roster. I wouldn't hate a safety pick late, because you're taking a shot at a special teams guy, and maybe he makes roster, maybe he's practice squad. But Drake Jackson, Mr. Romano's saying here, his relative athletic score is really high, really good. So guys got the tools, develop. Taking a receiver in Jalen Tolbert, who's got some upside. I like taking some offensive linemen who could develop. Pierre Strong, a really great running back. Yeah, I think this is a nice draft. There's some nice players here, for sure. Let's see. Then I think we're getting up to Robert Moore. Robert Moore has notes. He's got notes for us all. So,
he's the only one who came prepared with notes.
Yeah, he came prepared to class with notes. So we're going to see. And while he's getting his notes, we're going to look at this question. Do you all believe Wyatt is off the Cardinals boards? Obviously, there's some stuff kind of, off the field stuff going on with him. Do you think that he is going to be off the Cardinals draft board?
I mean, like you touched on it earlier, a lot of the time now it's smoke and mirrors. A lot of teams are just trying to gain some kind of advantage to make some players fall.
Mm-hmm.
Like spreading rumors that, hey, this guy didn't interview well, or this guy didn't do this and this well, just to get that player to follow them so they can take it, so they can take them. So
I
I'm
will
a
say
little
that
skeptical.
there's
I
some
know there is
legit
issues
with
with
Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Yeah.
I know there's issues with Wyatt.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see how it's becoming such a massive deal now when it wasn't earlier on.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what. I have to wonder if he's off their boards because of the Robert Kindice experience debacle.
Okay, that was an experience.
Right. And yeah, Wyatt had actual charges against him. I have to wonder if they were snake bitten enough from that and the Daryl Washington, if we go back, right, that's been a little while, but they've had issues. I have to wonder if he's off their board. I lean towards thinking he is because of that.
There's another one,
Especially
Darius
for
Phylon in 2018
Darius
when we signed
Phylon,
him
yeah.
and when he got arrested.
Yeah. When you're talking about a first round pick, it's a listen, but we're not talking about the talent. We're talking about the risk of off the field stuff derailing his career, right? So listen, as a prospect, Wyatt, I love Wyatt as a prospect. I think he's going to be a good player if he doesn't get him, if the off the field stuff doesn't derail him. But I think what's taking him off the board isn't the player talent wise. I think it's off the field stuff. I think they were snake bitten with, like, Kindice was a little bit of a head case and he was a little bit of a different dude, had some off the field stuff. It wasn't the same kind of stuff. And, but he was also very talented, but I think between that and the Daryl Washington, which was legit, kind of DV stuff, I think that those character things are things they're concerned about. Someone's going to take a chance on him. Absolutely. But the question that was asked is, do we think he's off the Cardinals board? And I think he is, because the Cardinals had that bad experience with Kindice and Washington. But I mean, someone's going to take a chance on him. Absolutely. I agree. But I don't think the Cardinals are going to take him. So Robert Moore, he has Zion Johnson. Then he traded next year's first round pick to move to 24 to take Treylon Burks. Then he did another trade to move back and pick up a couple fourth round picks in doing so. Then he took Enigbari, Neil Farrell, Tyler Algier, Zion McCollum, Christopher Allen, Matt Araiza, Josh Sills, James Empey. So let me where
are the notes? I want to see the notes before.
So we're going to get his notes in here. All right. So this draft is definitely built for the future. Okay.
I think that's a couple of drafts ago.
No shiny new toys for the defensive coaches. Got to develop play with the ones you got. So he's saying, Vance Joseph, we've given you enough. Play with what you got. With those shiny toys. Let's see. Then he says, I tried the simulation again and had to add a seventh. Okay, so you got lucky with that pick. My draft. Okay, no shiny toys for the defensive coaches. Got to develop players you got. They said that earlier. Okay. Let me know if there's any other. Oh, here we go. My choice to trade 2023 first round for 2022 is, I believe, drafting Burks and Johnson will pay dividends through their rookie contracts worth the sacrifice. Okay. So yeah, listen, I'm not a fan of trading future first round picks. That's just me, but I get what you did here. You got two players that a lot of Cardinals fans like and mock to the Cardinals, Zion Johnson, Treylon Burks, and you're saying we don't have to pick one. We'll get them both, right? And so I like that, right? Kingsley Enigbare, he's good developmental edge rusher. We got a defensive interior. I like Tyler Algier is an interesting running back. Check out Brett Coleman's running back video. He talks about him and his field vision, which is really good. He's not as physically gifted as some running backs, but he sees the holes better than anyone. So I think Algier is going to be a good fit in in a scheme like the 49ers have with their zone block running scheme. But he's a really interesting running back. I don't want him to go to them because Niners, but McCollum, cornerback with upside. I mean, I like the players here. So I'm gonna real quick though. I want to say thank you to Rafael Castillo for the super chat. Super appreciate it. He says, I gotta go, fellas, but hey, thanks for all the fun. Great mock draft Mondays over the last couple of months. We're 3 days away. Sheesh, it's almost like it's almost here, guys. Let's go, Cardinals. Rafael, appreciate all your support. Very active in the Discord, very supportive with the super chats. And obviously, you know, we have to say to that. So yes, thank you for that. And yeah, this mock draft Monday has been so much fun for the last couple of months. So yes, absolutely. So you know, Rashad likes it. I love the idea of mortgaging some future picks, get more guys for this year. Think we have to give up a little more to the Cowboys though. I did look at that and wonder if I know he didn't force the trade because it is graded, but I don't know that we would be able to get that, right? Yeah, cheers from Leo for Raphael. Absolutely. You know, so yeah, you know, Johnson Burks will be day one stars, can definitely make an impact in the rookie year. Could be, yeah. I think Burks would see the field a lot. It's interesting because he's size wise, he's more of an out. He fits what they do outside, but he played slot in college. But they'd find a way to use him. So yeah,
Hopefully.
What stands out to you about Robert's mock draft?
What glaringly staring though is trading away next year first round pick to get Traylon Burks when you could arguably get another receiver next year. I don't know if I would do that personally. It's definitely outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd do it personally, and I don't know if Dallas would do it because I think after Dallas just traded away Amari Cooper, I think they want to take Traylon Burks very badly.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other players here I like. A lot of the other players here I like. I don't know if I would do that trade personally. Again, but basically the rest of the draft I love.
Yeah. You know, and Jordan P hits on maybe, you know, I don't hate Burks as a player, but if you've been doing it with us here, you know I'm not as big on him as some folks are, and I think he's a good player, but there's a couple concern. One, you know, his physical. I don't know. I know he on film he plays fast, so I'm not. And there's some evidence that he's really fast, so I'm not overly concerned by the testing numbers at the combine. But the whole thing about, like, you know, he's a big slot, and you know there are certain types of offenses that want a big slot receiver, like Bruce Arians wanted that. But then, like, there's offenses that like smaller slot receivers and bigger and outside, which is what Cliff Kingsbury likes. And one of the concerns that has been hitting me recently with Burks and has really kind of been on my mind is one of the reasons, in my opinion, Andy Isabella failed with us is he was an outside receiver in college. They drafted him and tried to make him a slot receiver in their offense, and for whatever reason, it didn't work. Now, I'm sure there are other reasons, probably in terms of what he does, but I think he wasn't a fit for what they wanted in slot, but they hoped he would be. And I fear that Traylon Burks, a guy who plays as a big slot, they would draft him, try to play him outside, and something about that wouldn't work or wouldn't click as quickly, and it might have a harder time seeing the field quickly. Maybe it would work out fine, but that's just, you know, a concern for me in that regard. But I do like getting two players, really good players there. I love getting like Neil Farrell, you know, nose tackle Algier. There's some players I really like here. Any final thoughts on this one? On this one here.
No, not really. It's just again, I don't know if I do that trade for trading our next round for our next year first round pick for essentially for Traylon Burks. But the rest of the draft I love.
Yeah.
Love the rest of the draft.
Miss Brown saying, Joe, keep in mind that Lennon played in the slot primarily as well. I think he could play outside, though. Okay. Yeah, could be, yeah. And listen, that just because they didn't doesn't mean they can't, you know, so who knows, right? You know, but that is, again, when you're talking about a first round pick, you want to nail that, right? These, like, risk like that of a guy playing in a out of position a little bit, I'm more comfortable with on day 2 and 3 picks, especially day 3 picks. First round pick, man, the Cardinals have missed on so many first round picks because they played them out of position that I'm just a little gun shy of that, right? But, you know, I get that, right? Let's see. I want to just a couple more of the comments here. I think that's why the Cardinals went with tight end Isaiah Likely and play him in a big slot role for the price of maybe a day 3 pick. And they do play some tight ends, as in the slot sometimes. So that's a possibility, right? So yeah, again, this is I'm just kind of giving my preferences, but again, this is what's fun about this. We get to kind of wrestle with these questions. All right. This is the last mock draft I think we had for today, but I want to pose a couple questions on our way out. We're approaching the 2-hour mark, so we've been going for a while. But this is our last mock draft Monday for the year. And I know, we're all going to miss this. So with mock draft Monday wrapping up, I wanted to ask a couple questions. The first question I want folks in the chat to give their response to this is, when it's all said and done, not who do you think is the first player the Cardinals are going to draft this year? Not who do you want it to be, but who do you think, when the dust is settled, will be the first player the Cardinals draft this year? Put your answers in the chat, in the chat, and we'll get some of those. Corey, who do you think, if you had to do your best job of guessing what the Cardinals are going to do, who do you think is going to be the first player they select, whether it's a trade up, a trade down, or at 23? Who do you think it's going to be?
Who do I think Steve Keim's probably going to fall in love with? This person that's someone I would take at 23. Maybe I would. I could see him. I could probably say George Karlaftis at 23 if we don't move up or down.
Okay. Jordan P agrees with you. Rashad is saying Treylon Burks. Nick is saying Jahan Dotson. Chris Young is saying Burks or Karlaftis. Robert Moore, Burks or Dotson. I'll tell you what, we got a Kyrie Elam, so a little bit different.
That. Yeah. I would love that.
Well,
he didn't throw a shoe.
Yeah, right.
He didn't do that. Yeah, I'm well aware.
Matt Ariza, of course, right?
Besides that,
we got Burks. Daryl Gray's going to say Jermaine Johnson. They met with him twice. Okay, Jermaine Johnson.
Ooh.
Okay. And Jordan P thinks it's edge or wide receiver, to be honest, in round 1. Okay. I think our GM comes to the party a year late, picks a cornerback in the first round. I could see that. Interview with Keim, he said Kyler has a wish list. My bet he wants weapons, right? I tell you, I think it's gonna. As much as I lean towards, to me, it's either Zion Johnson or Jahan Dotson. I'm going to say Jahan Dotson. I think that's not who I necessarily would go there. I like Dotson as a player. They've been linked to him a lot, and just something about that feels like that's the guy they're going to take. Now, I hope they trade back and take him, but he's a guy who might be gone whether they take him or not, right? At some point. Who could there be thinks Jamison Williams? Okay. So that would probably, he thinks he can fall. I think it would take a trade up to get him, but okay. So, okay. It's a lot of interesting thoughts. So now I want to ask a different question now. And this will be the question we kind of wrap up on for the show. If there is a player who is not in round 1, preferably later in the draft, preferably a day 3, but we'll say day 2, we can do that. A player who is not a first round player and is not Matt Ariza, who is a player you really hope the Cardinals take who's not a top player and not Matt Ariza? So someone you really hope they take in round, somewhere between rounds 2 and 7. And the more you go later, the better. I really love to see some day 3 names, some deep dives. So who's one player you hope they take who is not a first round pick and not Matt Ariza? So a linebacker, Steve Keim's hoping so, right? Robert Moore, Alec Pierce, I like that. That might be mine. Josh Jackson, okay. Ebiketie. Yeah, okay. Of course, I knew this one was coming. Ty Chandler, Nick. Right. Christian Watson. Yeah, that's a nice one. Jason Poe out of Mercer. That's a nice one. Benito, because you like Benito because it's also is it Portuguese? Is it? You said that. So yeah, I know you've talked about it before. George Pickens. Okay. Hey Dow, thank you for being here. Appreciate you being here with us tonight. Josh Pascal and James Cook. If we don't take an edge in round one, okay. I like both those players. Okay. Zion McCollum. Okay. Sean Ryan, the tackle. Okay. It's a nice one.
Interesting.
Okay. A Mathis pick day 2. Okay. Mathis.
Damari Mathis, the corner out of, I believe.
Oh yeah,
Central
yeah.
Michigan.
Okay.
No, Pittsburgh. Sorry.
Okay. Yep. Josh Jobe. Okay. Alec Pierce, but late. Okay. Yes. Benito means beautiful in Portuguese. Okay, that's right. Rashad White or Alec Pierce. I like that. David Bell, receiver. Nice.
Another Purdue receiver.
Yeah. Team him up with Rondale Moore. Robert Moore forgot about Josh Pascal. Yep. Devin Compkins. That's an interesting guy as a slot receiver out of Utah. So he's so small, but he's really, really, really talented. He'd be an interesting guy on day 3. For Darian Mathis, that's a nice one. Get that kind of defensive interior on day 2, probably maybe early day 3. Pascal would be your other pick. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of nice picks. I think for me, it's. I mean, if I had to pick, it's tough. There's some names I like there. Alec Pierce, man, that's. I really like Alec Pierce, Josh Pascal. Yeah, there's some nice names there. Mathis. There's a lot of good players. Okay, nice. All right. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark, and
it is tomorrow for me. I am in the future.
Me too. Yeah. All good things must come to an end, Corey. And we've done this for a couple months now. On your all free time, you should do. I've done that before, actually. A full first round mock draft. That might. Yeah, I've done that before, and it takes a lot of time.
Takes a lot of dedication to do one of those.
Yeah.
Because you get towards the end, you're just like, I just want to go over. I just want this over with.
Yeah. So Corey, any thoughts you want to leave us with as we sign off with our last mock draft Monday of the year?
It's been phenomenal, man. Mock draft Mondays have been the best Mondays, but now they're sadly over.
Yeah.
But this has been a blast, man. This has been so fun.
Well, I knew you'd be up for it because you love this stuff. So I was glad you were able and willing to do that. It's been a lot of fun. Mr. Romano, you're streaming on Thursday. Yes. So Thursday, I'm going to do a live stream during the first round. It's not going to be a show like this where we're just going to be watching the draft and talking about it as the picks come in. So it'll be really, really kind of a laid back hangout, just kind of talking about it. So, if you're watching, the draft, feel free to jump in here, in the chat, and we'll just kind of talk about the draft as it goes. Robert Moore, mock draft has made my money as well. Believe me, it made mine too. I appreciate that. And Simon with a super chat. Thank you for getting us through the months, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the support. Simon's a channel member, a great supporter, and so thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate you, Simon. You're great support of the channel. And yeah, for the live stream on Thursday, I'm going to have some folks in here. I'm still working out some of the details, but it should be, some folks popping in and out. So maybe a few familiar faces, and we're just going to hang out and see how it plays out and stuff. So so thank you everyone for all the support of the channel, for being here for Mock Draft Mondays. We'll after the draft, I'll be doing, a once a week live stream, a general live stream, the kind of the TCR live. So we'll still be doing stuff, and, I'll be doing videos about the draft picks like I did last year. So I'll be putting up videos. So it'll be busy time for the next couple of weeks. There'll be a lot of content about that, hopefully. Dow, thank you. Appreciate you. Longtime support of the channel. Thank you. Appreciate you. And yeah. Oh, hey, Chris, thank you for that. So you know what? Here we go. Yes. We are going to have a, this is to you, Corey. And I guess to me.
I didn't super chat.
No, this is, but well, no, he's got, he thinks we deserve a toast. So just for yeah. Yeah, and yeah, those flight plan videos will be kind of interesting too. Free Agent Fridays, yeah. Man, I'm not. The problem.
What free agency Fridays? We didn't do anything.
Right. Though I do expect they're going to sign some free agents after the draft. We've talked about that before, so watch for that. So Corey, make sure you all follow Corey on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. Yeah, and shout out to Red Sea. Knows football, a great Cardinals supporter. Absolutely. And this, you super chatted live. Right. Thank you, A. Appreciate that. Who was that offensive lineman? That was Will Hernandez, right? Yes. So yeah, I don't think we'll do free agent Fridays because there are not enough free agents, but
maybe next year when we actually hopefully do something in free agency, but this year we didn't do anything. So like it would have just been Friday sob, where's the money, where's the signings, where's everybody, our team's bad.
Right. For sure. But listen, I'll be doing live streams, after the draft. Summer gets to be a little bit quiet. June and July are kind of dead months, but we'll probably do some live streams throughout there to keep things going. But yeah, if you haven't clicked like, please do. So we're up to close to 50. So wow, that's really great. We had a good group in here. So we're gonna head out. I want to thank everyone for making Mock Draft Mondays so much fun. This has been great for me. I know that Corey's enjoyed it. Am I streaming the whole first round? I'm streaming at least until the Cardinals pick. I'm starting at 8:00 and at least till they pick. I might keep going. We'll see. But at least up until they pick. So yeah, I'm not going to be streaming, obviously, the actual network stuff, but I will be live streaming during it, talking about it. There's a copyright thing about streaming the actual content, but yeah, I'll be live streaming from 8:00 until at least when the Cardinals pick, maybe through the rest. We'll see. I have to, after they pick a player, I'm going to have to be working on a video, and I'm going to be up late doing that, so I might get a little bit of a head start, but at least I'd be till the Cardinals pick and to talk about that a little bit. So yeah, draft at 6 for you. Nice. Yeah, 8:00 Eastern time. Sorry, I need to clarify Eastern time. So when the draft starts, right, I'll be there, right? So yeah, well, man, I appreciate that you'll be here. So yeah, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to wrap this up. Corey, last words as we head out.
Peace, man. It's been fun. Here's to hopefully a good draft, and hopefully we draft Matt Ariza. Right. Hopefully. Just so we can make all these memes worth it. All these memes worth it. Be the best 100%. Day of my life that we draft Matt Ariza.
That would be awesome. All right, so I'm going to throw up real quick on our way out. I'm going to throw up the member shout outs to just, thank all the folks who support the channel as members. I definitely appreciate all of you. So we'll throw this up and then we will end the stream. So thanks, everyone. Peace.